Hey guys, and welcome back. Today I'm going to be discussing Week 12 in college football and what some of the better value bets on the board might be. Just like the other videos I've done in this series, I'm going to be talking about all of the weekday games, just because there's not quite as many of those. And then for Saturday's action, I'm just going to be discussing kind of just a large handful of particular matchups on that day. So I have about 20 or so games that I'm going to be discussing in all. And if you're interested in knowing what particular matchups I'm going to be talking about, I'll put a list of those games in the description of this video. And if you're looking for more picks and write-up articles beyond what I'm just talking about in this particular video, you can head over to stumpthespread.com. If you're on desktop, you can click this logo right here and it'll take you right over there. And I'll also put a link in the description if you're interested in that at all. And also, if you want, you can hit the thumbs up on this video or subscribe or do both, and all those things really help out the channel. I'm really appreciative to all you guys that have been doing that. So thanks for that. And now heading into this video, first I'm going to be talking about Kent State against Bowling Green. Not a very intriguing matchup in terms of some of these other matchups that we have early in the week. Neither of these teams have been finding all that much success this year, but Bowling Green is actually coming off what was their best result of the year in their last outing, and they really performed well against a decent Akron squad. And Kent State, they've been a bit inconsistent this year. Now going on the road to a Bowling Green squad that's playing with a bit more confidence, we do think that the home team getting the points here is going to be the slightly better value bet in this one. This is a little bit more intriguing of a matchup in the MAC, Ohio against Central Michigan. Ohio, they got off to kind of a slow start this year, but this team has come online more so in MAC play, and Ohio's been a bit inconsistent on the offensive side of the ball this year, but their defense has largely been one of the better units in the conference. And then you have a Central Michigan team that got off to a really hot start this year, but they've really fallen off in MAC play. They've not been showing up both at home and on the road, and really been struggling to get wins as of late. So based on how these teams are trending right now, we do feel like Ohio is the better value bet here, giving the 1 point on the road. Moving on to Ball State against Toledo. Ball State has been having a tough time finding wins in the MAC this year, but this is a team that still has the ability to stay competitive with most MAC teams. But Toledo is one of the better teams in the conference. The Rockets have been picking up quite a few wins consistently in league play, but Toledo would also tell you that they haven't been quite as consistent on the defensive side of the ball as they'd like to be, and their offense has had to bail them out in getting a number of their wins. But Toledo probably needs to score about 2 or 3 touchdowns in this one to have a pretty good shot at the cover, and we do think that that's something that they can accomplish in this particular matchup. So especially if this one's able to get up to the full 3 touchdowns, we feel like Ball State would be the better value bet in that particular scenario. And the last MACtion game of the early part of the week is Northern Illinois against Eastern Illinois. A pretty interesting matchup here, even though Northern Illinois, they haven't been having the kind of success that you'd particularly expect out of this program based on what we've seen from them over the past half decade or so, maybe even longer than that. But this is a Northern Illinois squad that's got off to a really slow start in the non-conference, and that's kind of carried over into MAC play. Even though they have been pretty competitive, this is still a team that's better than their overall record might suggest. They're going on the road here to Eastern Michigan, who's having one of the best seasons that their program has had in recent memory. The Eagles are coming off a bounce-back win, and again, Vegas really isn't giving this Eastern Michigan squad any credit here on their home field. We do like the Eagles getting the points here as the better value bet. Eastern Michigan has shown that they can put up some pretty good offensive numbers, and their defense has been a little bit more hit or miss, but we do like Eastern Michigan here getting the points on their home field. Moving on to Louisville and Houston, not quite the game that we were hoping this would be at the start of the year. At the start of the year, this was supposed to be Houston's last proving grounds game, really, to have a shot at making the playoff, but as we know, Houston has picked up some defeats in conference play, unfortunately for them this year, which has knocked them out of the conversation and also out of the top 25. This is a Louisville team that's right in the thick of the playoff discussion, and if they close the year strong, they could have a pretty decent shot at cracking that top 4 and making the playoff. But to do that, the Cardinals need to continue to impress. Greg Ward Jr., that dual threat quarterback, Injuries have been a concern with him through his career, but he has largely been able to stay on the field, and he's listed as probable for this one, which is good for Houston. But Louisville's offense just should be able to kind of pick apart this Houston unit and separate them on the scoreboard as they go on to win and cover this 2-touchdown spread. Arkansas State and Troy, this is a pretty important matchup in the Sun Belt. Arkansas State got off to a really bad start this year, but they have been picking up a lot of wins in conference play. Maybe not so many blowout wins, but the Red Wolves have definitely looked better in conference than they did back in the earlier part of the year in September. And then you have a Troy team who we like to take a step forward this year after not having the greatest campaign last year. But even we didn't expect Troy to, take this kind of step forward where they've only lost one game this year, and that was on the road against Clemson by, I think that was by about 6 points. And that was a game that Troy definitely had the ability to even get that win, which if this Troy squad was undefeated right now with a road win against Clemson, they'd probably be ranked in the top 10. But it wasn't meant to be for the Trojans, and they're still having themselves a strong campaign, and they're coming off an emotional home win against Appalachian State, which was a big conference win for them, and we do like Troy to continue on building off that momentum as they go on to win and cover this manageable spread here at home. Moving on to Memphis against Cincinnati, we've been really disappointed with what we've seen out of the Cincinnati squad this year, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, as this Cincinnati squad was supposed to put up a lot of points this year, and that just simply hasn't been the case. They haven't even been able to get into the end zone in their last 2 outings, which is pretty embarrassing. And then you have this Memphis team that they've been putting up some pretty strong offensive numbers this year. They've been a little bit inconsistent in conference play, but based on what we've seen from both of these squads, we have a lot more confidence in Memphis coming into this one, as they should go on and cover this 1-touchdown spread against a Cincinnati team that's really, really been struggling. All right, and then the last weekday game, the Friday night capper, we have UNLV against Boise State. Boise State's working their way through another successful campaign. They're still in competition to try to win their division in the Mountain West, but they do need Wyoming to stumble probably this week against San Diego State as their best chance to overcome the Cowboys. And then you have UNLV, who actually was able to deal Wyoming their first defeat of the season last week, picking up the win in extra time by a final of 69-66, which was really impressive offensive performance for UNLV, but their defense was gashed time and again by Wyoming's offensive unit. Boise State should be able to do similar things to this UNLV defense, and we do see Boise State outpacing the Rebels in this one as they go on to win and cover this 4-touchdown spread. All right, moving on to Saturday's games. I got probably about 13 or so games that I want to talk about for today's action, starting with Miami against North Carolina State. We liked how Miami started the year, and then through the month of October, the schedule got really tough for the Canes, and they weren't able to get a win for quite a while. They lost 4 in a row after opening the year with 4 straight wins, but this group has been getting back on track as of late as their schedule has eased up slightly in the ACC, and this is another winnable game for the Canes, going on the road against an NC State squad that's really had a tough time finding wins in conference play, and this has just been an NC State squad that's been really tough to figure out this year. They've been very inconsistent on the offensive side of the ball, which has been frustrating. Anytime you have a team that's inconsistent, it's sometimes tough to formulate a strong confidence play either for or against them. But we do like Miami to come through here on the road as they pick up their 3rd win straight in conference play as they go on to cover this spread. All right, Texas Tech and Iowa State. This is a game where Texas Tech should be able to put up a lot of offensive numbers against this Iowa State defense. Texas Tech, they do not have one of the better defenses in the conference or even in the country for that matter, but their offense is one of the best units. It's really been kind of an interesting year and frustrating for Texas Tech fans because their offense has the ability to make them one of the better teams in the nation, but such a weak defense has made this group really struggle to pick up any kind of wins consistently. But we do expect the Red Raiders to come through here against one of the lesser teams in the Big 12 as they go on to outpace Iowa State on the scoreboard as they get the win and cover. All right, the next game that I want to talk about is, let's see here what I got. it's UTSA against Texas A&M. So UTSA, Texas San Antonio, they've actually been having themselves a fairly respectable campaign this year, winning about half their games thus far. Obviously, this is going to be a big step up in competition for them, even though they are coming off not the greatest performance against Louisiana Tech, where they gave up just a ton of points. But at least for the Roadrunners, they're going against a Texas A&M squad that is without their star quarterback Trevor Knight, who was really having a great year until he got injured. And Texas A&M playing in the brutally tough SEC over in the West Division. And they might be overlooking this matchup a bit, just considering the fact that now they're going outside of conference. And without Trevor Knight on the field, A&M is definitely not quite the same kind of threat. We do think that Texas San Antonio can get enough points on the board where they can keep this respectable and go on to cover this rather large spread. We liked it better at the 4 full touchdowns. It has shrunk since then, but it definitely could go back up. So keep an eye on that. And if you can get the 4 full touchdowns, then the Roadrunners definitely feel like the better value bet in that particular matchup. Moving on to Oklahoma against West Virginia. This is one of the marquee matchups in the Big 12. I'm really interested to see how this one shakes out. It's a night game over there in West Virginia where they have a pretty nice home field advantage. West Virginia has one of the better defensive units in the Big 12 this year. And then we have an Oklahoma squad that remains undefeated right now in conference, but this is an Oklahoma defense that we do not have a lot of confidence in. We do value Oklahoma's offense over West Virginia, but we think that the home field is really going to play a big part for West Virginia in this one to kind of keep them in the game with this night action. So we do think that West Virginia getting the points here is the better value play in a matchup that really could go either way. And if West Virginia brings the kind of defense that they've shown they can bring, then they definitely have a decent shot at picking up this upset. All right, moving on to San Diego State against Wyoming. A really important matchup here in the Mountain West Conference. San Diego State has already gone up about 3 points, 2.5 points in this one, but now it's settled at about 9 points. This is a spread that'll probably continue to fluctuate. There's just a lot of people that have been impressed with what San Diego State has been able to do consistently in conference play this year on both sides of the ball, and we do expect San Diego State to put up some pretty good offensive numbers this week against Wyoming, but we also expect that the Cowboys, with their home field advantage, should be able to control the clock a bit, and honestly this could turn into a lower scoring affair just because both of these teams play more of a traditional style, and they both don't mind kind of running the clock a bit, so we're definitely not going to see a game in the 60-point range like we saw from Wyoming last week, but could be more in that 20-point range for each team. Should be competitive. We've been pretty high on this Wyoming squad this year, but Vegas has caught up with how good this team has been. They gave them a fairly respectable spread in this one, but we do feel behind their home field advantage that Wyoming does have the better betting value here. We liked Wyoming when they were at home against Boise State, and we feel similarly about this particular matchup. So we are going to be siding with the Cowboys here in the points again on their home field. All right, moving down to Virginia Tech against Notre Dame. This is a Virginia Tech team that's shown some pretty positive signs this year at times, but they've been a little less consistent than you'd like to see. They've shown potential, and this is looking like a program that's heading in the right direction, at least under their new coaching staff. And then Notre Dame obviously having a ton of tough times this season. They've been not showing so great on both sides of the ball at different times this year, really struggling to pick up wins consistently. Notre Dame has looked a little bit better as of late, but we do feel like Virginia Tech does have the better betting value here in what's been pretty much a pick-em at this point, but we do like the Hokies here as the better value play. All right, Kansas State and Baylor. Baylor's really fallen off the face of the earth over the last few weeks. Some of their defeats have not been the prettiest, and with the injuries that they're dealing with, we're just not very high on this Baylor squad right now, and it could be tough for them to refocus their efforts given what they've been going through over the last couple weeks. And then we have a Kansas State squad that's, they've been competitive at least, but they've also struggled to pick up wins consistently. But this isn't a Kansas State squad that has the kind of elite talent that you'd really expect them to compete in the upper tier of the Big 12, but this is definitely a Kansas State squad that usually doesn't beat themselves. And we do think that they have a good shot here on the road, just given the situation that Baylor's been in lately. So we do like the Wildcats to get the job done here, get the win in the cover. Moving on to Florida State against Syracuse. Florida State has huge offensive output when they're going against even adequate defenses. So going against this Syracuse defense, which is one of the lesser defenses in the ACC, we expect the Seminoles to put up just a huge amount of points in this one. And Syracuse's offense isn't quite the same threat without Eric Dungy on the field. The Syracuse offense has shown some bright spots this year, and we do like the direction this program is going overall, but this is still a very young team that's in the rebuilding and development phase of their progression. So we like Florida State to get the job done here. Liked it a lot better at 17, but if you can get it under 3 touchdowns, it still feels like Florida State has the pretty decent betting value in this one. All right, moving on to Washington State against Colorado. Washington State opened the year really terribly, losing back-to-back games, but this is a team that hasn't lost since, and they remain undefeated in the Pac-12, which is a pretty impressive feat in itself. Unfortunately for Washington State, their loss against a FBS opponent has pretty much kept them from being in the playoff conversation. If they would have just opened up the year with a win against Eastern Washington, or even been able to upset Boise State in what was a 3-point loss for them on the road, this would be a group that would be right there in the thick of the playoff discussion, along with Washington coming out of the Pac-12. But unfortunately for them, they weren't able to take care of business early on, but this is still a really strong team that's shown that they can blow out the weaker teams in the conference. And now going against a Colorado squad who's in the upper tier of the conference, we do expect the Cougars to give them quite a match here on the road. Colorado, they've won some games kind of less than ideal wins in terms of, not having great offensive performances. In particular, their win against UCLA kind of stands out to me as one that they were more fortunate to get. But we definitely liked this Colorado squad coming into the year to have a bounce-back campaign, and that's definitely been the case for this veteran group. We expect this to be a very competitive contest, and one that we think could go either way. We do like Washington State getting the points here as the better value bet. Next game I want to talk about is Ohio State against Michigan State. Ohio State had some shaky contests there a few weeks back, and this is an Ohio State squad that's been getting back on track as of late, but this could be a tricky test for them here on the road, kind of like Michigan faced in their road game against Michigan State. This is a Michigan State squad that's vastly underperformed expectations this year, but even though their record looks really bad, this is still a Michigan State squad that has the kind of talent where they can at least be somewhat formidable against Ohio State like they were against Michigan at home. And Michigan State was also finally able to break through in the Big Ten last week, beating Rutgers at home by a final of 49-0. And that's the kind of result that can, give Michigan State a bit of confidence coming into this matchup against the Buckeyes. Michigan State would love to play spoiler here, and we do think that they can keep things competitive enough where they get this cover at home, getting over 3 touchdowns. All right, so another kind of rivalry game here that I want to touch on is going to be Southern Cal against UCLA. USC has looked like one of the best teams in the Pac-12 over the past few weeks, and getting that win on the road against Washington was really impressive for them. It's obviously tough to go back-to-back on the road in conference play, but if Southern Cal can beat Washington by double digits on the road, we feel like they can do the same to this UCLA squad that's really underperformed this year, but part of that has had to do with Josh Rosen being out, but nonetheless, we do feel like this USC squad has a lot of momentum going in their direction right now, and we do think that they have what it takes to get over the hump here and get the double-digit win as they go on to cover this spread. And I just have a few more games I want to talk about before I close out this video. The next one's going to be Oklahoma State against Texas Christian. This is an Oklahoma State offense that's one of the better offensive units in the Big 12. They haven't been quite as consistent on the defensive side of the ball, but their offense has done more than enough to get this squad right there at the upper tier of the Big 12. And then this is a TCU squad that's been really inconsistent this year on both sides of the ball. Their offense, when playing up to their potential, has the ability to put up a lot of points, but we just haven't seen that version of this TCU squad all that often this year. We feel like Oklahoma State has had more success this year and been a bit more consistent, and getting the points on the road, it feels like they have pretty decent value bet in what should be a game that they push for the upset in. Air Force and San Jose State. This is a San Jose State defense that we don't have all that much confidence in along the defensive front, and that could be an issue for them here. Going against the triple option of Air Force, we do expect the Falcons to get a lot of yardage on the ground today and outpace the Spartans on the scoreboard as they go on to win and cover the spread. And then the last game I want to talk about is Navy against East Carolina. Another triple option team here. Navy has been having a lot of success this season, flying under the radar a bit. They did pop into the top 25 for a couple weeks, but this is still a group that's been having a lot of success. And if they close out the season strong, they should get a fairly respectable bowl game matchup. East Carolina, on the other hand, they have the talent to be competitive in the AAC, but they just haven't shown that all that often this season in conference play. And we do like this Navy squad to get the job done here on the road as they control action. We don't have all that much confidence in this East Carolina defensive front, so Navy should be able to get their triple option rolling pretty successfully in this one. As long as they take care of the ball, they should be able to go on to win and cover the spread here. All right, so that pretty much does it for the games that I wanted to talk about here for Week 12 of college football. Again, if you're interested, you can head over to stumpthespread.com to get our daily free plays, not just in college football. With college basketball season starting, we have at least one free play up for the college basketball action on a daily basis, and we also usually have a couple of college football free picks up articles that you can check out. You can also upgrade to become a premium member over at Stump the Spread to get all of our top confidence bets. And if you can, hit that subscribe button or thumbs up the video. It really helps us out. It's really appreciated. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you in next week's college football Week 13 video. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you then. Bye.